goes.
Welcome one, welcome all to Crypto and Chill. I am Mike, aka Veteran Crypto, and with me as always on Tuesdays and Friday nights for this show is Jeff, aka the Blockchain Report. How's it going, brother?
Doing good, man. Doing good. Been cranking out some videos and came across some interesting stuff. Did an RWA, covered an RWA project today. Little video drop in a couple weeks, but which is interesting because I see right before we went live, I saw the Plume news that dropped earlier today, which we'll dive into. And yeah, just a lot of interesting stuff. And yeah, David Sachs kind of stepping back. So I'm interested to see what the next step is for crypto in the White House. But
yeah, I know that he was on a contract, so it's kind of. I mean, we could definitely dive into it, but my understanding was this was the timing that they knew that. Yeah, I mean, it's not like he's quitting or he's getting fired or anything like that. It's just his contract's up and he's going back to working his personal businesses and stuff like that. So I think he was trying to do his duty, trying to help, with crypto legislation and stuff like that. Cause he has a vested interest. And so, but like I said, I think his contract was up. So
I wonder, do you know if they plan on bringing somebody else in, or is it just kind of
we can dive into it and, see if we can figure it out. All right.
Figure it out. Good.
Well, let's bop on over to here. Let's introduce some socials, and we'll take it from there. So, if you want to join the chat and jump in and comment and troll or whatever it is you want to do, go ahead and jump on over here to YouTube and go to @thenode_channel, and you can find all of our channels. So we are the Node channel, but we should have called it the Node Network because we got a bunch of different shows. We got the Node, the 2-hour morning show on the Pacific side of the country, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m., noon to 2 on the East Coast. That is myself and David. And we do interviews. We cover daily news Monday through Friday, and DeFi education. So basically teach you about advanced strategies and the different protocols. And we just had Shaw from one of the co-founders of Canton Network on for an interview. Next week we have Dagnum PI coming on from Constellation Network. We're always having different. We had OpNet on. You and David interviewed them. Great interview. So, we're bringing you all the top shelf, top shelf alpha here, and it costs you nothing. All you got to do is like and follow, share it. Crypto and Chill, what you're watching right now, Tuesdays and Fridays, 5 p.m. You got Jeff over the Blockchain Report. Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday, he does his pre-records where he does deep dives on early projects and on some of them, show you how to farm airdrops. DeFi High. Every day after the Node main show, you got DeFi Don, and he's teaching entry-level DeFi. So it's the show that me and David started doing together. And once we all came together, Jeff, Don, me and David, then he took it over so that me and David could do the main show. And then we got Sovereign Soil, myself and Drew over at Blockchain Basement. We are doing a collaboration on Saturdays for 30 minutes at noon Eastern. We are going to start talking about emergency prep and homesteading. So he's a homesteader, I'm a homesteader. I've been doing emergency prep for decades now, and we're just going to teach what we know, and just kind of share some of our knowledge with y'all out there, just so that you can properly prepare. We got the daily market wrap up. David does a quick 15, 30 minutes, and he is adding to that Ellie, who is in our community. He is going to start coaching her live on twice a week. I believe it's Tuesday and Thursday, and we have a paid service where you can pay for one-on-one coaching with David, where he brings you from knowing nothing about DeFi in a matter of a couple of weeks. He brings you up to a competent DeFi investor. And so we were talking about it, and we were like, why don't we reward one of the community members that has stuck with us, through the bear market and stuff, and give it to them free, as long as they're willing to come, on the show and, basically be taught live on air, so, people are going to see what they're doing and stuff like that. And she said she was willing to do it. So, basically what we're going to do is he's going to, he's actually going to give her $100 in USDC, I think he said, and a little bit of ETH.
A little bit ETH.
And then he's basically going to use that and have her, doing DeFi and learning. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to watch because I've never seen him do that, provide that service with someone before. So it'll be kind of an interesting kind of look behind the curtain.
And that tells you all about, where especially David's at, like providing that education for free, like willing to share with others and sending her money like that. Like, hey, I'm going to help you go through this. And, that's awesome. Really awesome. You don't see a lot of people doing that.
Well, and what's cool is I mean, we have plenty of stuff here that costs, our community nothing. I mean, all of DeFi University costs nothing.
Yeah.
All you got to do is go sign up for it and go through the courses and take the quizzes. All the content, we don't have paid content on any of our, channels or anything like that. Everything is just, come and learn. That's the way that we've always been. We don't get paid by any of the projects. Canton didn't pay us in any way or compensate us in any way for the interview. OpNet, nothing. Dagnum, nothing. It's like nobody that comes on our old show, DeFi, Crypto, and Airdrops, or this show. It's why working with Don and Dave is so great because we all have the same values. We're all about integrity. We're all about calling it out. Today, I told David, I mean, I'm bullish as hell on Arrow. I told David today on the show, on the Node show, we were going through and picking apart projects that we felt didn't have legs. That the tokenomics wasn't such that token holders share in the success of the business or the service behind the token.
Voting and emissions, right?
Yeah. And so I told him live on air, we had to build it out live on air, the AI to go through it all. But I told him, I was like, dude, do it on Arrow. It's my largest bag. Show me where Arrow sucks. Let's see if Arrow sucks. And it came back, and I mean, it was saying some pretty, what I thought was bullish stuff. It pointed out a couple of flaws, but for the most part, bullish.
Yeah. And everything's not going to be perfect. Everything's going to have some little.
Yeah.
But if it's 80-20, hey, I'll take it.
Yeah. I think his hang up is the BE33 model. And and I have to admit, it hasn't been it hasn't been it's one of the few that has succeeded in that VE33. So you have a black hole that started to do well on AVAX, and then just with the market pulling back like it did and stuff like that, it's not doing well. Velodrome never really took off. Aerodrome, however, for whatever reason, it took off, and Aerodrome was built by Velodrome, the same company. So it's weird. It's just what gets traction and what doesn't. So anyway, we got the red pill Thursday at 6 p.m. So that was last night, and we just pick a topic, and it's usually controversial. You know, if you got thin skin, I highly suggest you don't watch it because you're just going to get upset, and you might have to, you know, cry yourself to sleep or something. So, yeah, it's basically we pick you know, political topics, you know, all the stuff that you're not supposed to talk about, we talk about. So, you know, we talk about political topics, we talk about religion. I mean, there's been times where we've talked about you know, the use of psilocybin mushrooms and DMT and stuff like that as like a, you know, therapy for PTSD, and I mean, you name it. We've talked about everything, and we're usually drunk and we're usually obnoxious. So, you know, fair warning, you might want to wear, you know, headphones, or, you know, make sure there's no kids around when you're listening.
Yeah.
And then last but not least, we got gaming and chill. So on a Sunday evenings, 8 p.m. Eastern, Jay and Ellie, and usually somebody else from our community, will jump on and play Arc Raiders, or, you know, play games, and they just stream it. And then there's Saturday Night Fever. So tomorrow night at 6 p.m., Jeff, you know, usually spins some tunes. You know, he's a DJ. And last one, he had one of his buddies on, DJ Superman, and they talked about. Well, actually, you tell us, what did you guys talk about?
Yeah, just what his kind of influences are in music and how he got involved in DJing. He started out by playing violin growing up, and then in high school got into DJing, and he talked about one thing that he didn't realize was the business side of it. How if he had somebody to kind of mentor him on the business side, it would have he'd be a lot further along than he is now. So that's something that there's a program that he's part of that they have like a
mentorship
3-day workshop down in Florida, and it's they have like music producers and business people and stuff. So it's like a whole thing, and I'm looking to go down there in December. It's every 6 months, so during the summer and then in December. So that was really cool.
Real quick, Steve-O, like, you're over on X looking for us on YouTube, brother. We merged, so we're not on the DCA channel anymore. We merged, and me and Jeff, David, and DeFi Don, we actually started a company. Like, you know, we actually started an actual business doing this. And we are over on Jeff's old Blockchain Report channel. So just look up here. I'll show you again. Up here,
rebranded the channel.
Yeah, I'll actually copy and paste this into the chat, and then show it up on the screen.
Yeah.
So yeah, just go to YouTube, Steve-O, and go to @thenode_channel, and you'll find us. So,
yes,
so sorry, I just wanted, Steve-O was looking for us. I wanted to, but you were saying the small business, and that he was going to that class, and
well, his friend started this this collective group that teaches. That's like a mentorship program, but it's 3 days. It's like a workshop, and you go down to Florida every 6 months, or it's every 6 months down in Florida. And I was like, this is a really good idea because it teach you all the fundamentals. You get to network and business side. So, yeah. And he's like, it was important because he saw that the value in it, because if he would have had that exposure early on, it would have just propelled him even further. But, and he also talked about how he got started doing events. He went to the city that he lived in, at the city hall or whatever, and asked them if there were any events that they needed a DJ for. And the guy was like, oh, well, do you have anything you can show us? And he had stuff that he had posted online. And I thought that was a great idea, because even if you're just doing it for fun, you build up that portfolio just doing it for fun. And then if you decide to take it professional, you already have a body of work in whatever it is that you are interested in to show people. It's like, okay, I don't have to go home and try and work on something for this person and try and impress them. I already have a collection of work that I can show them. And that makes it easier, because if you're doing stuff for fun, it's a lot less stress, and you get to a point where you are doing much better at that work, like whatever it is, what kind of art you do, you can kind of build up a body of work and showcase it when you're ready to make it professional. So I thought that was a great thing. Gave me a lot of insight too, and it was great catching up with him because I met him back in 2009, back in our clubbing days. Shared some old memories. I actually ran. So we both graduated the same year, and when I ran track in high school, we came in state runner-up against the school that he went to. Now, he didn't run track, but he knows a lot of the people that I ran against, and we were sharing memories and stuff of the people running track, and it was really cool. It was really cool.
Nice. Well, speaking of coaching, so this is our official channel, or our official webpage, thenode.pro. David's been working on this. Those of you that watch us know we make sure that everybody knows about this, because this is where you find all of the no cost offerings that we have. I mean, David's building out tools like for advanced DeFi strategies, like calculators and all kinds of different tools that we're going to be putting on here, and you can just use them. They don't cost you anything. You can find DeFi University, links to DeFi University here to go through that at no charge. We don't charge for it. The private coaching, we do charge for. That's one-on-one, hours, spending hours, on the live calls, with one-on-one with people, walking them through, and like with David, again, he's going to be doing it with Ellie, walking her through, what he does, what he's done for 300 to 400 different clients. Taking them from a beginner, knowing nothing about DeFi, all the way up to where they are, competent DeFi investors. DeFi Don is one of his clients. In the chat, Big Lou, there's a bunch of people in his community that watch the show now, and there's video testimonials from people, talking about, what a great program it is. So really, I can't tell you how excited I am that, we got this collaboration going where we all came together, Don, David, you and me, because we all have such unique skill sets that we just complement each other. And, we share the same values and, the same mindset. And, it's just, I think it's really cool. We're going to be doing other coaching. So Jeff might start doing some private coaching for DJing. I'm thinking about doing it for emergency prep and homesteading. So if you want to keep your prep private, a lot of people do. I'll get on a live call with you, just me and you, and you can talk me through what you got going on, wherever you're at in the process. If you haven't done anything, or if you've gone out and bought all the sexy bells and whistles and gadgets and who's its and what's its, I'll tell you what's trash and what's good, and help you, streamline and make sure that you have the right stuff. Because, ultimately, your best tool in investing and emergency prep, survival, whatever, is right between your ears. So, all right. And then we got the AI newsletter. So this here is going to be $20 a month. But right now, if you go to the node.pro, you can use this at no charge. And what's awesome about this, let me zoom in on it, is you pick the assets that you want in your newsletter. So I got BTC, ETH, Sol, Arrow, Canton. I got a stock, a Coinbase stock. So you can do stocks. You can do commodities like gold and silver and oil. You can do crypto. And it will always give you the S&P 500, the NASDAQ, and the Dixie. And it generates, once you generate it, it gives you trading ranges. It gives you the news, like from social media, like X, whatever's trending on X, with links to it, so you can read further in. It gives you the news, from mainstream media, and you can click and read those articles. It gives you liquidity pool ranges, so it finds the lines of support and resistance in the charts for the assets that you're interested in, and will actually give you concentrated liquidity pool ranges. So all of this right now, you can give it a test drive. We're still dialing it in. So if you want to give it a test drive, go ahead. But probably starting next week, it's gonna be a paid service. That's gonna be one of the things that we do charge for, because it does cost us a decent amount of money for cloud services and the APIs and all that kind of stuff. So,
is there a max on assets that you can generate?
Honestly, I don't know. I don't think so.
See, there you go.
Honestly, you shouldn't be, in my opinion, you shouldn't be having more than 10 to 20, and maybe even less, assets. Just because it's really hard to keep up and stay knowledgeable on that many freaking projects and stocks and stuff like that. So, what else we got? The store. So DeFi Don has been designing hats and hoodies and t-shirts and all that kind of stuff, and they're starting to add it to the store. So if you scroll down here, you can buy David's books, paperback versions of his books on teaching DeFi. If you prefer the holding it in your hand, we're going to have hoodies, we're going to have t-shirts, we're going to have hats, we're going to have mugs, all that kind of stuff. It's just a way that you can help support the channel. Like I said, pretty much everything we do here is no charge. So we figured we'd come up with a couple of options for those of you out there that want to show your support. So
high quality cotton too, high quality material. So
I always feel like it takes forever to do the socials now, because telling everybody about all the different no charge offerings that we have, it like takes forever, because there's like so much stuff that we're just like, yeah, here you go.
Mm-hmm. Well, especially at the beginning, when we're getting ramped up, a lot of changes have happened, and want to make sure people know all the stuff that is available, because it's powerful. I mean, you have stuff that's no cost that people charge thousands and thousands of dollars for. And it's like, you're not taking advantage of that, man.
I know a couple of people out there, like what even David's coaching, one-on-one coaching. It's like 28 to 4,800, something like that. Let me look.
A year?
Let's see. Yeah, 2,800 for 4 sessions over 8 weeks. So twice a week. So two 1-hour sessions for 8 weeks. Email support, where you can email them and ask questions. You keep the session recordings, in case you want to go back over them. Personalized curriculum. So basically, he goes through and he assesses all your portfolio, and will build your education around where you're at, as far as knowledge and your where your portfolio's at, your success, or not, and customize a curriculum for you. And then builds out custom action plans. So basically tells you, all right, this is what I need you to do before the next call. I need you to learn this. I need you to read about this. I need you to learn the Greeks and what each of those are, the gamma and theta, and all that stuff. And he builds it all out for you. It's he doesn't hold your hand, but he guides you. Now the intensive one is you get 60-minute power sessions. So you get 8 sessions over 8 weeks. You get direct message access, like through the whole time, priority email support, and advanced templates and tools, and session recordings for life. So it's a lot more involved. It's a lot more in depth. You're getting twice the attention, and a lot more real time access to for questions and things like that. And then of course you get the 3 1-hour a day live sessions that he does with the community. So like DeFi Don is always on the call. Big Lou's on the call. He's on the call. Sometimes I'm on the call. Not that I'm a DeFi expert, but it's great because you can find a mentor, like what we were talking about. Where your buddy was wanting somebody to mentor him on the business side of DJing. DeFi Don is talking about. He's even mentioned today that for free, that anybody that, because he's a very successful business owner, and semi-retired. And today on the show, I mean, I don't know how much or how often or how long, don't quote me on this, but he said that if anybody's interested in starting a small business, like they have a business idea and they need a mentor, that he'd be willing to do, free coaching with them. So if you're an aspiring business person, that's what I'm saying is we have a really good group of people here that really just want to help
people. And Steve said, any Solana swag? No, just Cardano.
yeah. Lots of Cardano swag and XRP. Ton of XRP army swag.
The only Cardano is Cardano underwear, so you can shit all over it.
Oh, a Cardano thong. We need a Cardano thong.
So it goes right up.
Yes, we need a Cardano thong.
Oh.
And yeah, Ellie, we should see if we can find some place that does like little cat sweaters or like, collars or something like that we can put the note on.
That would be awesome.
Then I can get my little lady. I can get her like a little sweater for the winter time or something.
That would be awesome.
It's like I don't know. I get all kinds of comments because I'm a cat guy. Like looking at me, you would never think I'm a cat guy. But yeah, dude, and I wasn't for years.
The universe spoke,
dude. I was dog guy all the way, and I found my cat outside my cabin. Just all freaking. One night I went outside because I thought it was a pack rat and I was going to kill it. And I went outside, and it was obviously not a pack rat. I saw her go under my Airstream, and so I looked under there and I saw her cute little face. And so I sat on the ground, and I was just like, finally coaxed her to come out. It took a minute or two, but I just sat there. I didn't try to grab her out or anything like that. I just sat there and made her come to me. And she came over and like curled up on my lap and started purring and fell asleep. And so I sat there for like an hour or two and let her sleep because she was obviously like scared and hungry, and she was just tiny. And so I sat there for a while, and then I was like, I'll go inside and see if I can find something for her to eat. So I got her a little something, and she just basically moved in and took over my cabin. It's like, but dude, so therapeutic. Cats chill, dude.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
No, absolutely.
A little companion.
Yeah. No, yeah. Ellie says you didn't find cash; she chose you. Yeah, the universe. And what's weird is my brother Taylor was up here a couple of weeks before that, and like doing mushrooms and stuff like that. And he was saying that he kept seeing a cat. He's like, I keep seeing a cat. I keep seeing a cat. Do you have a cat around here? Or do you have a cat? And I'm like, no, dude. It's like, again, I've never owned a cat in my life. It's like, I'm not a cat, dude. It's like, maybe you're seeing a mountain lion. You're just tripping out. I don't know. And so, anyway, like he left, and a couple of weeks later, I find Cass. And so he's like, I saw it. The universe told me that there's a cat.
See, and man, he's got to have some kind of like intuitive touch with, because of the story about his friend and stuff, that he saw that thing clung onto him, and the energy monster, I guess you would call it.
Dude, no, Taylor's always been like that. Like he actually was huge into the Mormon church, like all growing up as a kid. So much so that like he really didn't date, he didn't drink, he never smoked, never did anything like that. Didn't date a whole lot. He was on the football team, like super popular, but just just never got into that stuff. Was a man of his word, and he held the priesthood in the church, and all that stuff, and went on a church mission to the Philippines for 2 years. Went down to the Philippines, lived like in the slums of the Philippines for 2 years, spreading the gospel of Jesus Christ. You know what I mean? And he wrote a book about it. Actually, you know what? I'll go grab it real quick. Super cool book.
Oh, damn. That's really cool. How long was he gone for?
2 years.
Just 2 years? Okay. Damn. We have there's a friend in our group that's going on a mission this summer, because she's a nurse and she's taking some time off. Oh, wow.
Yeah. I mean, look at that thing.
Whoa.
Oh, it's so like on the back, like
ITUY. What does it say at the bottom?
TUI, it says an adventure to the end of the world. So he said, so the
Whoa.
back, it says, high in the teal jungle of Luzon Island is Itui, the Magat River mountain valley where the Igorots, the people of Itui, ended their 70,000 year adventure eastward on an inky moonlit night. There's some of this stuff. An Ingrid man would share with me the legend of the Ituri tree, the symbol of the kings of Atui. My religion sent me to Atui to convert the Igorot, to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. However, it was my adventure to Atui that converted me to the way of the Tui. A phrase, a child development that is often ignored is the leaving home stage. Unlike other primates, we spread across the globe, inhabiting every part of the planet between the ages of 15 and 25. A young adult, particularly a young man, is programmed to go on a hero's journey, an adventure where he can find his strength to stand strong in the world. The narrative of this journey is so programmed into our psyche that it permeates almost all great epic tales, from Star Wars to the oldest written story, Gilgamesh. My hero's journey took place on foreign soil rich with experience, a place of high winds, an island where gods and demons fought for my soul. Damn. Mormons are one of the few communities that still practice this rite of passage hundreds of years before. So basically, it's kind of interesting because, again, he was like super freaking religious. And then a couple of years ago, me and him were talking on the phone, and I thought him and his wife and his kids were all still very much involved in the church. And we're talking on the phone, and he swears, and he's never sworn. I've never heard him swear in my life. Dude, when he got married, I bought him and his wife a DVD player and a movie, The Last Samurai, with Tom Cruise. And he wouldn't watch it with me. He kept getting up and going and doing dishes. I'm like, dude, like, why won't you like sit down and watch the movie? And he's like, it's rated R. I don't watch rated R movies. That's how devout he was. And all of a sudden he was swearing, and I'm like, what the hell is going on? And he's like, yeah, dude. He's like, I took mushrooms. I'm like, what? I'm like, you're
like Invasion of the Body Snatchers, dude.
No, I'm like, what the hell is going on here? And so yeah, he started telling me about his experiences. And he's always been very in tune with with things like that. But like when our uncle died, like he has a story about that where he had basically not a vision, but he basically saw that my uncle after he died came up here to my cabin, and he was saying that he could see what was going on, and he described. Whoa. He described what I was doing. He's like, this is the time that I saw it. What were you doing? He was like, you were doing this, 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 and this. And it was kind of creepy because what he said I was doing at that time, that day and time, was exactly what I was doing at that day and time.
Yeah, it's weird, man. I mean, the remote viewing thing is, even the CIA had a bunch of studies and research, and they had groups that did things like that, and it's pretty incredible once you learn that there's some truth to this stuff.
but he's always been like that. He's always been in tune. He knows when people need things. He knows when he's very intuitive. I'll just leave it at that. But yeah, super.
I just searched Itui on Brave. And the first thing that came up was his book it's on Amazon.
Yeah.
And there's in the videos, there's a video of him, episode number 5.
Share your screen.
Hold on. Yeah, let me throw this up. So yeah, the SoundCloud, but right here. And then right here, there was this video on YouTube.
Yeah, that's
Oh, that's his.
that girl is from the Philippines, and I want to say that he sponsored her to come over because she's a lawyer at his law firm. So she was like an assistant, and she was going to law school. And her and her husband, where I met them both last time I was down there, and they were both doing. You know how you have to do like an internship. They both did internships in Taylor's office, and he ended up hiring her as a lawyer after she passed the bar.
Damn, that's really cool.
But yeah, no, Taylor, like me and Taylor come from very humble beginnings. Like our dad is a school teacher. He was a special ed teacher, and he on a teacher's salary. He was a single dad for the most part, and for a while he was raising 5 kids by himself as a school teacher, making like 20 something, 30 something thousand a year. Like we were living off pancakes, like literally. Like he would buy pancakes because we couldn't eat it all, because the you had to make it because pancake batter. And so it was the only way that he could keep us from like eating all the food for the week. And so he was struggling that much. And but Taylor from that was able to put himself through college. Got his him and his wife, like when he came back off his mission, he got married to his wife that he's married to now, have a bunch of beautiful kids that are all like into jujitsu, and like they're all very one of his sons is actually going to come up here to the cabin and stay with me this summer. But but him and his wife started flipping houses. They managed to get a loan on a house, and they were flipping houses down in Texas, and with some help from my dad. And they were able to build up enough money to where he took a leap of faith because he didn't like working for other law firms, and opened a law firm. And there was a bunch of times I didn't know. We weren't talking a whole lot then. And but I guess he went through some struggles, and he's shared it on air. That he was struggling really hard, and his buddy Jeff, Texas Jeff, was there for him. Like Jeff just wandered into his office one day, like the universe sent him like a cat, and they hit it off, and they built a business together. And he even gave Taylor a car, like when he was struggling and stuff like that. Right. And they basically built out there's Jeff right there, a super like multiple law firms. They have a couple different locations down in McKinney, Texas, and freaking Jeff is a licensed financial advisor, so he can actually give financial advice, been doing it for decades. They very charitable. They have for like elderly and stuff like that are struggling financially. They do seminars all the time where they teach them how to restructure their retirements. They don't charge them anything, and they teach them how to restructure their retirements and stuff like that to where they can live better. And dude, just a good people, man.
Yeah, and you were doing a show with them for a little while, the Money Talks.
Yeah, and it's just they're just so busy. I just always felt guilty because they every Monday, they would take an hour out of their day. It was their lunchtime basically, and come on the show and to teach people about wealth wealth preservation. So everybody, in crypto and investing is always, trying to, convince you they can, teach you how to get rich. But what are you going to do after you get rich? Like if you do happen to get rich, you figure, you crack the code, and, in trading and DeFi and crypto, whatever. Do you know how to stay rich? Because there's plenty of statistics, people that win lotteries, and, plenty of people that have made millions in crypto that are broke now. Like I can name a couple, of influencers and stuff like that were bragging about all the money they made in meme coins and all that. And they kept rolling those dice and got wrecked. And because they didn't diversify, they didn't take a couple $1 million and put it in some, some stocks in the Magnificent Seven. They didn't diversify it into some Bitcoin and some Ethereum. They didn't buy some real estate. They didn't figure out how to structure their wills and trusts and small businesses to where they mitigated their tax burden, so they don't have to pay so much taxes on. And they didn't learn how to take out loans against assets, so you don't have to sell them. So you keep exposure to those assets, but you're able to access the liquidity and not incur a taxable event. It's actually a tax write-off. Yeah. These are the things that we are trying to teach people here, and not charging you for it. We're bringing experts. My brother Taylor, he is a licensed practicing attorney that specializes in estate planning, and he's willing to come on here, no charge, stuff that he usually charges clients for, and he's willing to share it with everyone here. David, very successful DeFi investor, and he's willing to come on here and share the majority of what he knows, no charge. DeFi Don, semi-retired small business owner, he's willing to come on here. He doesn't need to be a part of this at all if he didn't want it. He couldn't care less about if this makes money or not. He just enjoys hanging out with all of us, hanging out with all of you, and sharing his knowledge. Trying to uplift people. It's that's all me and Jeff have been trying to do the whole time, is just help people improve their lives.
Yeah. Build a solid community of people that
absolutely,
because there's been a lot of just shady people in the space that just try and extract and shill. And it's like, no, we need some more integrity, man. And people that are willing to work hard and give value and, build that trust. So,
well, I'll tell you,
it's been awesome to see what we've been able to build this past year.
We're building a reputation because, there's a lot. I mean, we're getting some pretty high level interviews for such a small channel. I mean, the fact that Dagnum's willing to come on, OpNet came on, Shawl from Canton Network came on, and it's because, there's not many places that, not to say that they don't exist, but there's not many places that are about integrity and quality content, and calling out, the good and the bad on everything. Not just painting a bullish picture because it's what's going to get clicks or likes or follows. We're going to beat the hell out of, I know that we could, sit and talk about how great XRP is and get a ton of traffic. I'm not going to do it because I don't believe it. I would rather shut this channel down than shill something to you that I don't actually believe in and not willing to put my own money in.
Mm-hmm. Facts. That's the facts.
That's the facts, Jack.
What Biden say? You don't vote for me, you ain't black.
That's right.
Oh man. Oh, that's so funny. No, that's Indica right here. Because my boy was sitting in the window, but she's right here.
What else we got going on? So you're talking about Plume. Plume is in Washington, D.C. What's the story with that?
So let me throw this back up on here. So this came out earlier today. EtherFi, David's favorite, recently announced a $25 million strategic allocation into Plume's Nest Vault. I know Plume's been beaten down, and everyone's wondering if XRP to 10,000 though.
Dude, that's conservatively. That's at a minimum 10,000. Because I think it's going to $1 million per XRP.
$1 million.
Record this. Quote me on this. XRP to 1 million.
Yes. So it's backed by Super State Inc., their USCC fund. And I'm not sure what that is, but yeah, EtherFi, in case you don't know, it's one of David's what David uses mainly for his debanking, because he doesn't use traditional banking system. He's got an EtherFi card that he makes all his purchases with. And yeah, it's just next week. Oh, man, that would be, Bitcoin would be at 1 million, if not more. It would be like 10 million. Oh man.
Yeah, no,
You can ban me.
that's I mean, I actually wouldn't mind getting David's take on that. EtherFi allocates 25 million to freaking the Plume Nest Vault. So those that don't know, I still have all my Plume, and again, I'll be fully transparent. There was a massive exodus. Actually, I'll pull it up on DeFi Llama. There was a mass exodus of fucking TVL from Plume Network when the markets pulled back. What the hell? DeFi Llama. Bring up the Llama.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty significant. When, what do they have? Asset under management, $6 billion in customer deposits on EtherFi. So
yeah, actually, you know what? Finish telling this story, and then I'll show what I see on Plume.
Yeah, and they really just say when an entity of that size commits 25 million to an on-chain RWA strategy, it's doing so after structured due diligence with a defined investment thesis and on a timeline that doesn't hinge on what the market does next Tuesday.
Yeah,
which is very important. And like you said, we've seen the exodus of TVL, and you got to wonder, okay, well, if they're investing that much in Plume, then we got to
let's hold on. I want to make sure that we're clear about this. They didn't invest it necessarily in Plume. They invested it in Nest protocol that's on Plume.
It's on Plume.
So I want to make sure we're clear about that. So they didn't necessarily invest in Plume. They're investing in Nest, and there's the Nest vaults. I'll bring it up here in a second.
But if Plume goes down, if they wouldn't do that if they didn't think Plume would.
If they thought
go down.
If they thought Plume mainnet was going to be going away, that the project, the underlying protocol or the underlying chain was going to go away, they probably wouldn't be investing in Nest. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. But
that's good.
We're all about, details here. So, but you can see, like, this is, end of December, so basically the new year, freaking Plume tanked as far as TVL. So this is the, DeFi, and Plume, those that don't know, is a purpose-built a chain for RWAs, tokenized real world assets. So you got Nest protocol, they got a bunch of other protocols on there, and it's specifically built for DeFi. So it's a great ecosystem that they've built, freaking amazing ecosystem. But they've had issues with keeping liquidity, as most in DeFi have. Pretty much Aerodrome, Morpho, Aave, and Uniswap are the ones that have been the most solid. But yeah, a lot of other protocols and chains have struggled. So anyway, just want to be transparent about that. Let me bring up the Plume portal. Let me make sure that this is
Portal. The Plume portal.
All right. So this is the Plume website, and where you can find information and stuff. But you can go to the Plume portal, but you can see earn with Nest. So Nest protocol is on Plume mainnet. Now, if you go to the portal, it's been forever since I've been on this thing. I'll be honest. Got to connect.
Yeah. All those spins, man.
I got so tired of the freaking that season 2 just fucking drug on forever.
Yeah, March 31st is supposedly the end of season 2.
Finally, dude. Finally.
Yeah, because I saw there was a post about it starting like last June.
So let's see. So yeah, I mean, you can see, you got, tokenized gold, you got, Morpho. There's actually bridges that go from Plume Network to Morpho. So like, we've actually did a show on it where it shows, basically bridges between Base Network and Plume Network through Morpho. Their lending vaults and things like that. You got, this Nest basis vault. If a decent amount of liquidity makes it back in onto Plume Network, these Nest vaults, there is some really cool looping that you can do with borrowing and lending, like investing, and then borrowing against those assets, and then lending those assets out. And like, there's a bunch of looping that I have built out that I did before that pullback, in case we got an actual bull market, and we had I had a bunch of liquidity to play with. But let's actually go to Nest.
Yeah, I haven't been on Nest in a minute.
Here we go.
Great.
So this is Nest protocol. Yeah, see, Nest by Plume. And what this is it's curated vaults. So they're basically funds, tokenized funds. So let's actually go to here. All right. So actually, let's just go to vaults. All right. So you got Black Opal. So this is a BlackRock. BlackRock is on here. Black Opal. Investment grade short duration payment receivables. So you can click on it and go in here, and it will tell you what it consists of. So this fund is payment financing. So short-term cash advances is 92.4% of this fund. They invest 6.3% in U.S. Treasuries, short-term U.S. government debt, and then 1.3% in liquid assets, stable coins and things like that. So there's that one, but there is other ones. Like, one of the ones that I really liked was this Alpha. So this one was really cool, and I was doing some really cool stuff with this. So this one, it looks like they've made it 80% short-term cash advances, 8.3% liquid assets, so uninvested stablecoin liquidity, 7% U.S. Treasuries, and 1.1% private credit. But you can take out loans on these. So you can invest in these, have full asset exposure. And these aren't, I mean, this, these operators, you got Apollo, Superstate, and Black Opal, which is BlackRock. These aren't fly-by-night companies that are building these out. These are highly successful asset managers. So this is why I'm so bullish on projects like Plume. I haven't talked about it much lately because I know it's going to fall on deaf ears. Everybody's just going to be like, look at the price, look at the price, look at the price. I still have about 74,000 freaking Plume tokens. It's only about $1,000 worth. It's not worth a whole lot. At one point, I had like 20-something thousand dollars worth, but it's just it's gone down. The price has gone down that much. But again, I'm in a lot of the projects I'm in long term because I see what's being built. I see RWAs while the market's pulling back and these tokens are going to shit. RWAs is in tokenization of real world assets is nothing but up and to the right. And I can show you. Let's see. RWA.
Show me that beautiful bean footage.
Oh, that beautiful bean footage.
Bush's baked beans. God.
This is the market, the entire RWA market, and you can see it's just nothing but going up. And this is stocks, bonds, commodities, real estate, you name it. Anything that's illiquid, you can tokenize and make it liquid, and it allows you to have fractional ownership. It allows you to take out loans against it. Use it as collateral. You can trade it 24/7, 365. You don't have to only be able to trade it when the markets are open. There's so many things that you can do with when you digitize these assets. And so that's why I'm so bullish on projects like Plume. And not to say that it's going to be successful. It could freaking go tits up tomorrow. But I see what's being built, and I am positioning myself because I want to hopefully catch that Google of crypto, or that Microsoft of crypto, or that Amazon of crypto that ends up being one of the ones that are, the hub, and that's why I'm in Canton Network. That's why I'm in Plume. And again, Plume is a long shot, but Canton Network, super strong project. Bitcoin, Ethereum, you can see the adoption. It's not rumors of partnerships. It's actual adoption and launching of real products that generate revenue. They generate fees, and there is mechanisms to where you can get a share of that. Depending on the token, of course.
Dude, that validator node is going to be sick for Canton.
I'm excited for that. So we ended up getting, and again, we didn't call in any favors to get to get the validator node with Canton. I full disclosure though, I did ask Shaw, what was it I asked him? You needed a sponsor. And so I asked him, I said, what is the best way to find somebody that would be willing to sponsor us? And he put us in contact with somebody, and he didn't make an introduction or anything like that, but he was like, this is somebody that you want to talk to, because we explained to him what we were wanting to build and stuff like that, because we want to build on the network as well. And he's like, this would be probably your best bet to talk to, because they'd be interested in something like that. And so, yeah. Anyway,
hey, that's awesome.
But that's awesome. What we'll see. David's working on standing that up. So yeah, potentially that will be a revenue stream for the channel.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, these Nest vaults, the available networks. This Nest, Nest protocol that was developed by Plume is on Plume Network, Ethereum, Solana, and BNB. So it's cross-chain, and these funds, these assets, are available on those 4 chains. And again, I don't know why it doesn't say Base, because we've shown where there's a connection with Morpho, which is on Base Network. So this is the knowledge that we are trying to offer here, that we're trying to share with you all. And again, do your own research. Don't just take what we say at face value. Do your own research. And if you're as bullish as we are, invest. If you think we're full of shit, don't. I don't care. Again,
send us, a little note, in the Discord. Join the Discord. Say, hey, I think you're wrong about this, or here's some alternative statements that might change your opinion. We want to see people challenge us with facts and logic and reason, and not just emotion.
Yeah, no.
Opinion.
You can't debate emotion. No. People are going to feel how they feel, and you can feel however you want. Doesn't mean I have to agree. And it doesn't make it true. There is no such thing as your truth. Whoever came up with that's a dumbass. It's like there's the truth, or it's not true.
There's your lived experience. I'll say that
Ye-
instead of, oh, my truth is your lived
Yeah.
experience.
Yes. And you know what? You're welcome to feel however you want, but that doesn't make it true. So if
Mhm.
anybody that's willing, and I've put this out before, with everything I say about XRP, I've challenged all the XRP maxis and the XRP army. I've said, come on the show. If you can show me with facts, logic, data, because everything that I've said, I've shown data. I've shown that the XRPL is a stagnant chain. It's not growing. It's not doing anything. The utility's been taken away from XRP, other than as a gas fee and in some very specific use cases. But RLUSD has replaced it. The majority of RLUSD is on ETH mainnet, not even the XRPL. I mean, all
Mhm.
these things I've shown with data from and information from Ripple and straight off the XRP ledger
Yeah.
on XRP scan. So I'm not making this stuff up. But if anyone is willing to come on the show and have a good faith debate, I don't want to throw insults. I don't want it to degrade into something stupid like that. If you can show me with data, and show me, why you're bullish on XRP, not rumors of partnerships, not, if or when or, it could, what is actually being done? Because there's
Mhm.
projects with much smaller market caps that have a lot more going on than XRP. Now, Ripple has a lot going
The
on,
business, the
the
company.
business. Now, we covered this today on the show, on the node, me and David. There is a huge difference between the company behind a token doing well and a relationship or a correlation to the profitability of the token. And that depends on a lot of factors, one of them being the tokenomics. If there is not something in the tokenomics that shares the revenue and profits of that company with the token holder, you're wearing your favorite team's jersey. You are holding a meme coin because
Yeah.
that's there's no value in that token other than if people are hyping it on social media to get the price to go up so that they can sell at a higher price than they bought it. It's just a matter of who
Mhm.
was in first and who got out first. That's all those tokens are. And you're going to see there's going to be a culling here real soon. If what David says is true and this bear flag that he's been talking about on Bitcoin plays out and breaks to the downside like he was showing today, it actually started breaking to the downside. If it keeps that momentum, we could be looking at a $40,000, $30,000 range on Bitcoin. Great buying
Ooh.
opportunity if you have dry powder.
Mhm.
But if that happens, can you imagine what's going to happen to altcoins? And some of these projects might not ever come back.
Nope. And you don't want to be that exit liquidity bag holding. Because I
No.
said in the chat earlier about Polkadot, when you guys brought it up, I was I had to stake 10 dot last cycle for this project that I am kind of not like, what do they call it? No, it had just not ICO. But I had to stake 10 dot on their protocol, and I got however much of the Akala token, and it was kind of like DeFi stuff on dot, but it was at like $35 when I bought the dot, and
Oh, you bought the
for 10
top.
Polkadot, yeah, I think it was 50 or so, but close enough.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, now I still have the 10 dot, but it's it's not worth
Dude, we've
300
all
some
done it.
dollars.
Yeah, I mean, we've all done it. I mean, freaking,
Yeah.
at some point, we've all FOMO'd into something.
Oh, so yeah, that's and don't even get me started on Cardano because that was just, oh man.
No, I do
Years.
not get why so many and like big influencers. I'm not going to call out any names, but big people in crypto that just constantly talk about Cardano like it's the next coming of Jesus. And I'm just like, what? There is nothing going on with Cardano. I mean, he's always talking about midnight, and the midnight token has done well, but it's just I haven't seen anything being built. I haven't seen how it generates revenue, and other than staking, for very very low APR, it's really the only way to earn with your ADA. And even the DeFi that's on Cardano is like MinSwap. It's like 30 million or 40 million total TVL. Freaking Aerodrome has hundreds of millions of dollars.
Oh, geez.
It's
Just
like
crushed
it's
it.
just it's ridiculous. I do not get why so many people that that are knowledgeable about crypto are so bullish on it.
Wolf. Oh, he said, DZ.
We're sorry, DZ. We're sorry.
And I mean, Cardano girls, majority, 90% of these girls in crypto, I mean, they just kind of shill, but you get some that
Dude,
are.
there's so many, and not just girls. There's so many people, and I don't call us influencers because we're not trying to influence anybody. We're trying to
No.
educate. But influencers annoy the shit out of me because they're constantly just chasing narratives. They're just whatever the hot topic is what they talk about. It just because they want eyeballs. If XRP is trending, they're gonna say great stuff about XRP. If whatever project is trending or hot and pumping, they're just gonna pump out that content. Here we talk about whatever is going to bring the most value. Now, I don't care if something's trending. It's like, I mean, I care if something's relevant in the news, like on the node. When we're talking about the news, yeah, of course, we're going to talk about whatever's, the trending news. But when it comes to like projects we're talking about or, DeFi and stuff like that, like we're talking about Plume. There is nothing sexy going on with Plume right now. It's like, yeah, I hold it back, but I'll admit it. There is, I mean, Nest. This is the first, really good news, and the fact that the Plume team, their general counsel, was in Washington today or yesterday, and basically teaching politicians about tokenization. You said you had that article, didn't you?
Oh, here, let me. Oh, it wasn't an article. It was a
A
post,
post.
actually.
Bring it up.
Yeah,
Let's
right
share it.
here. Oh man, look at who he's with. God damn it. Oh man. Oh, he had to be
Oh,
with her.
baby Jesus,
No, no,
dude,
man.
Waters, dude. She's
Oh,
she's
Maxine.
one of the politicians that I hate the most.
Hold on. Let's see if
She looks like Ogra from the Dark Crystal, dude. Do
big
you
fat
remember that
salaries
movie?
with zero achievement.
Do you remember that old movie, The Dark Crystal?
No.
It
Look at this
was
guy's face. He's like, I'm trying to hold in a shit.
dude. She has such a sourpuss face.
Oh my
Yeah,
god.
I'll show you what I'm talking about.
She was old buddy with SBF, man. Hopefully, shit.
Oh, she was, and she got a bunch of money from him too, and that just
Uh-huh.
conveniently gets freaking forgotten about.
Yep.
So yeah, hold on. Here it is. Let me share my screen real quick. So this is
Oh my God. Wait, what movie
yeah.
is this?
It's called The Dark Crystal. It was I want to say it was Jim Henson that did the Muppets, the Muppet Show.
It looks like a Jim Henson.
Yeah, but
Yep.
as a kid, dude, this like sends me back to my childhood.
Oh, fuck.
Such a, but dude, she looks just like her.
Oh my God. Okay, I know what you're talking about, but I've never seen it. Damn, I'll have to
It's
watch that because it looks like it got really good
well, if you're
ratings.
into like anime and stuff like that, it's not anime. It's the puppets and stuff. But if you're into
Yeah.
that kind of stuff, it's for me it's
It kind of
nostalgia.
reminds me of like Never Ending Story
Yep, yep.
style.
Around the same time frame. Around the same
Yeah.
time frame. I actually did a I tried to get away as a kid. I had to do a book report, and so I tried to get away with doing a book report on the Never Ending Story, the movie, and so I wrote my book report, and at the end, just like at the end of the movie, I said, "But that's another story," and and my teacher like marked it with red pen, and she's like, "What's the rest of the story?" And I was like, "Oh shit! I got to come up with it. I have to come up with an actual story now."
Thought you were slick.
I thought I was slick, dude. I was like in second grade or some shit. I thought I was being slick as shit.
Oh, kids are so funny. They think they're so smart, and then
Uh,
you don't know what you don't know, man.
yeah.
So yeah, I guess this guy had an opportunity to testify with the financial committee yesterday for tokenized securities equaling securities regulation legislation updates need to be achieve same or better outcomes. Framework needs to be durable. Innovation exemption likely to disappoint, and U.S. should lead on-chain capital markets. Tokenized bond yield spreads, or tokenized bonds cut yield spreads by 23.9%. DeFi protocols show 2x better capital efficiency. And Singapore's Project Guardian has 40 plus institutions, live bond and fund tokenization. EU, your European Union DLT pilot. I don't know what DLT is. 3 authorized venues in 3 years.
Distributed ledger technology.
Oh, okay. I don't know why we haven't been like going up because Singapore's been far ahead, or like some of these Asian countries in crypto have been just so far ahead of us in regulation and shit.
Because they're
Um,
Asian. They're
they're good with numbers.
statistically they're smarter than everybody else on the planet.
Yeah, that's facts.
Wow, for
Yep.
real. The average IQ in most Asian countries like far eclipses, pretty much every other group across the globe.
Yep. Well, that's so funny because they say how the white man is so rich in this country and they make the most money, but if you look at
Dude,
the average earners, it's like Asian or
Asians
Filipinos,
and
Indians.
and people from India.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, and dude,
And
Asians
it's
they did
so
not have it easy in early America. They did not have it easy, and they dealt with World War II. They were put in internment camps, and lost everything. There was some. They were treated very poorly, and they managed. Their culture and society here in the U.S. They've managed to do very well. So yeah, anytime any group says that, oh, just history and this was done to our ancestors, it's like, I don't want to hear it. There, look at
you don't see them hauling for reparations, do you?
oh, they don't need it, but
Nope.
dude, like the Irish were treated like trash, like straight trash in
Uh,
like early America. They most Irish came over here as indentured servants. Basically like to pay their way over. They were slaves for a couple of years.
wow.
It's
Wow.
I mean, I'm part Irish, but my grandma came much later. But yeah, Irish were like looked at as like almost subhuman.
Fuck. Yeah. Some European countries, they had people come over and weren't even considered white. They were like, "Oh, you're not, part of us. You're outcast."
No,
And
there's there's
like,
definitely Europe and stuff like that. But yeah, no, it's they definitely seem like that they're wired different, and those Asian countries and markets, they're making some really good headway when it comes to crypto legislation. That's kind of why I was joking about last crypto and chill, when I was kind of joking about the Japan thing. Realistically, that's what kind of got me thinking about it. The whole shortage of male Japanese porn stars. That was mostly joking, not totally joking, mostly joking. But what my thought process is if we can get like a $50,000 badass house in Japan, that gives us a jumping off point to go to Singapore, to go to Hong Kong, to it's all like right there in almost the same time zone. And so it would give us a place on kind of that side of the globe to as far as going to crypto conventions and stuff like that, because the four of us, we've been talking about Don and David, they've been talking about getting a place closer to Miami, because there's a huge Bitcoin community there, and a lot of conventions there. And I've been talking with them about potentially pitching in and spending part of the year down there, to where we can go and actually get interviews, like go to the conventions and get interviews and stuff like that, for the Node channel.
God, that'd be sick. Yeah, Ellie said it was not a potato famine. There was plenty of food in Ireland, and yes, Irish were slaves. In fact, often thrown over a boat because they were cheaper.
Yeah. No, history is a powerful, powerful fucking lesson. It's everybody at some point in history has had it bad. Every race, every religion, every gender, it's everybody's had it bad. And do not let yourself get sucked into that victim mentality or that victim mindset. It is dangerous, because it gives you an excuse to not try. It gives you an excuse to not succeed. It makes you dependent. Government loves people to be victims, because if you're a victim, then you're not going to try in life. And if you're not going to try in life, you're going to be on government assistance. If you're on government assistance, you're dependent on them for the roof over your head and the food on your table and your health care and everything else. And if you don't vote, for the right party or the right people, then you potentially can lose your benefits. So it's a way for them to guarantee control over you and how you vote and how you live your life.
Yeah, don't get sucked into the identity politic bullshit and the racism and all that. It's just manufactured to divide us more. And like you said, everybody's had some kind of issues, and land being conquered from other tribes, and even before the white man came, tribes were conquering land from other.
Dude, every piece of dirt on this planet was taken from somebody multiple times throughout history. The Native Americans, in the United States, they fought each other constantly and took land from each other. Freaking the Neanderthals and whatever humans were here before the tribes, freaking they took it from them. There's always somebody taking somebody else's shit. It's called history. It's just how it is. Man. It's even Europeans. A lot of people don't understand that. I know this is totally like not crypto related. I'm just fucking rambling now. But Europeans, during the same time as the African slave trade, during the height of the triangle with rum and slaves and all that stuff, the Barbary Coast, North Africans were raiding merchant vessels and taking Europeans as slaves. and they were selling them in slave markets as sex slaves, labor, whatever, and it was in equal amounts. And a lot of people don't understand that most of the black slaves that were sold to the Portuguese on the coast, they would just wait on the coast on the beaches, and it was African tribes that were bringing other tribes, people. They'd go and conquer them and go sell them on the coast. So a huge part of the supply of African slaves were by Africans.
Mm-hmm.
One of the only places that slavery still exists is in Africa.
Dude, still, yep.
Still to this day. It's like, where is the outrage for the slavery that is going on currently? Not hundreds of years ago, not injustices that were, 50 or 100 years ago. Right now. There is slavery going on right now. How about we focus on that first?
No, it's too hard,
Don
man.
is 5% African, but that 5% is between his thighs and his waist.
Yeah.
Love you, Don.
Oh yeah. Big ups. Oh man. Oh, what was that? Don't be a menace.
Yeah, don't be a menace to South Central
while drinking your juice in the hood. Oh shit. Man. That was a great movie. Oh yeah, Jay, you need to. I'm 7%. I need my reparation and shit.
Right? No, it's
Oh.
But Thomas Jefferson, he sent over that's the Marines. So like in the Marines hymn, from the halls of Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli and all that. That's what they're talking about is Thomas Jefferson sent over the U.S. Navy because the North Africans were raiding merchant vessels from the Americas. And so, he sent them over there and, like the officer saber in the Marine Corps, it's called the Mameluke sword. It was gifted. The original was gifted to the Marines. I'm wanting to say, I forget the guy's name, but basically the ruler. So they conquered him, and it was tradition that whenever you surrender, back in the day, you would surrender your sword to to whoever conquered you. And I guess he surrendered his sword. But yeah, it's when you learn history, it's such an eye opener, and it makes it so much harder to be manipulated. By a lot of this this shit that they manipulate with these days.
Yeah, that's the key, man, and not being around people that feed that even more.
Jeff, Jeff says he can sprint, jump. He's not a strong swimmer, and he likes big white women. So he must be.
I've been with not my preferred, but it's things happen. You got to do your civic duty sometimes.
Sometimes a wingman got to do what a wingman's got to do. You got to run interference for your buddy. You know what I mean?
Oh, and never tried Henny? Oh, I've had some.
Well, no, I've drank plenty of Hennessy. It's in the barracks. Like if you want to, like back in the day, you had to drink gin and juice and Hennessy if you wanted to hang out with the brothers.
Yeah.
If you want to play dominoes, most of the time when I was hanging out with my buddies that were black, I'd hang out. We'd play spades. They were big on spades. Whenever I hung out with the Puerto Ricans or the Cubans, or most Spanish people, I'd play dominoes. Black guys like playing dominoes too, but they love spades. And you got to be able to talk shit. Like if you can't talk shit, or if you got thin skin, you better not play dominoes or spades. Like in with in the military or with ethnicities. And then if you wanted to fight, if you just wanted to like go out and get in fights, you hang out with the cowboys. The white country dudes. Because all they did was drink Budweiser and smoke Marlboro Reds and go out and get in a fight. So you just really depended on what you wanted to do. And then going out to the club with black dudes was always cool too, because they like the thicker girls. And so if they always, they had no issue taking one for the team. Like in their mind, you were taking one for the team. So it was like, yeah, cool, yeah, let's go to the club.
Yep. Oh man, yeah. That's what I loved about being in the South, because when I moved from California, there was just a lot of different cultures here, but out in Carolina, it was just black and white and some Hispanic and a little bit of Asian. But being around
in my life,
more people of color, man, getting to hang out in some ghettos, and oh dude, it was definitely an experience. So in high school, some of the kids I played football with, they were like, "No, you're cool. You say the N-word. Say it." They kept baiting me into. Oh man, when they do it enough times, you're like, okay, fine, I'll sit. Just one time, just don't beat me up.
Yeah,
but
no, it's. I actually like. Well, I can't say that. There's not a whole lot of early on, like when I was like really young, like when I first joined the military, I was 18. Probably my first duty station was in South Korea. I was there for a year, and I was stationed up by the DMZ, so the demilitarized zone. So there wasn't a whole lot to do there except for drink and go out and buy stuff. So like knockoff Nikes, fake Nikes and stuff like that. You can go out and do like a bunch of shopping, but pretty much after the first month, a lot of that wears off, because I mean you can drink there at 18 because of the local laws, and they got the juicy girls, the girls that in the club, they're prostitutes, and but you can buy them like at the time $10 was a lot for a drink. You can buy them a $10 basically shot of pineapple juice, and it was just a way for them to milk more money out of you. So if you wanted their attention, if you wanted them to sit down by and hang out with you for a while, you buy them a juice, and and then of course you could pay for more. But I don't know, I could never get into that. It's one thing I never did on my deployments. A lot of my buddies were into that kind of stuff, but I just couldn't do it, because one thing I learned from the Katusas, so the Korean national. So in a lot of countries, there's a mandatory service, like Shaw mentioned yesterday, in Israel. It's mandatory 2-year service for both men and women in Israel to serve in the military. In Korea, males have to serve 2 years in the military. So the Katusas were attached to the U.S. military. There's the rock soldiers that are just straight Korean military, but families of influence or kids that were going to college could be attached to the U.S. military so that they could continue their studies while they served their time. And one of the Katusas was telling me one night in the barracks, we were just hanging out and drinking soju and just shooting the shit. And he was explaining to me, like, it was actually somewhat common where parents would pretty much sell their daughter into prostitution to pay for their son to go to college.
Damn.
I was like, holy shit. And so, once I learned that, I have no problem with prostitution. If it's a consenting, adult, man, woman, whatever, and they're doing it of their own free will, and it's, whatever. It's the oldest occupation on the planet. Cool. But if somebody is being like coerced or forced or something like that, and to me, I'm like, there's no way for me to know, so it's like, I'm not going to contribute to that.
No, that sounds terrible.
Yeah. No, it's like, I don't know. It's just something I couldn't get behind. But anyway, we used to get out and get in fights out there. So we'd get hammered. and then we'd go down the alleyways out in the village, and basically just like pick fights. Like, locals would try to pick fights with us. Other military members would pick fights with each other, and basically just beat the shit out of each other. And then the SPs, the security patrol, it's usually like NCOs. They had like this leather armband that had SP on it, and they were basically there to keep the peace. Make sure that the military guys didn't trash bars and stuff like that, and getting in bar fights. And so as soon as they'd start coming, and the actual Korean police would start coming, and we would take off, and we'd have to evade and dodge, and friggin' hide in alleys and behind trash, and do all that all that stuff. And I actually got a pair of rollerblades. They were called Metro Blades. I know it's a super gay name, but they were shoes. And then there was these shells, these rollerblade shells that would slip over them like super fast, and you could lock them in and like go. So I would carry the blades around and just wear the shoes. And then if we got in a fight, I could grab those and I could slap those on and just freaking like skate like crazy and freaking get away. And so that's how I used to.
Ones? The three-wheel?
No, they have like 4 or 5 wheels on them.
Oh shit! Okay, oh shit!
Yeah, and so like I'd be like jumping downstairs and freaking I could like run in them, like I could go upstairs. I got like really good with them, and so it was a ton of fun.
Out of there.
Like, dude, yeah, it was a ton of fun. Just running around fighting and like evading and just doing all that. It's I was like 18, 19 years old.
Oh fuck! Damn. The things we do when we're young, man.
Yeah. So, well, shit. Well, I mean, should we wrap this up and fucking get some dinner and feed some cats and shit, or what?
Yeah. Gotta feed the pussies.
Yeah.
Feed the little pussies. Pussy gotta eat sometime.
Yeah. They love getting fed. That's for sure.
And
all
stuffed.
Right.
Like
stuff. make sure that you join us tomorrow. So tomorrow, me and Drew at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific, we're going to be doing our first installment, just a quick 30 minutes on sovereign soil. And
it's not going to be earlier because his son had the birthday party tomorrow, but.
No, I think that's why we planned it earlier. I'll get with him. I'll be throwing it up. Just go to our YouTube channel, subscribe there. Put your alerts on, and I'll be posting that when I get up in the morning. I'll probably message him tonight just so I know. But we're going to be going over go backs and just kind of some of the fundamental principles that you need to take into account. Whenever you're building out your bug out plan, or your emergency preparedness plan, based on if you're urban, if you're rural, if you're, a single guy, a single girl, if you got, if you're a single parent, if you're married with kids, if you have 1 kid, no kids, 8 kids, whatever. All of those factors are going to change how you build out your emergency preparedness plan. The amount of food and water that you have, if you're going to survive in place, if you're going to bug out, just what gear that you have, all of those different things. I mean, even
if you're
small
liberal,
things.
You might have a dildo in there, who knows?
Dude, you know what? As a self-defense tool, it might.
And you don't like guns?
Yeah, just have a big rubber dildo that you can beat somebody. Yeah, a dilly dally. Like on a Letterkenny, a dilly dally, dude. But so we'll be talking about that. Something as simple as like your kids, get them a little backpack that has like their favorite stuffed animal in it, some coloring books, stuff like that. Because if something bad happens, that's like stressful as shit for a kid. If they got a coloring book that they can, focus on, you don't want a kid crying and freaking out in an emergency situation. It's just going to add stress. If you can give them a comfort item, a blanket, a teddy bear, whatever, give them a coloring book that you can keep them occupied while you're trying to deal with the situation. And then the biggest thing is sewing onto their backpack or, somewhere on them, having your contact information. So if for some reason you get separated, your kids get separated from you, like in a group, in a crowd or something like that, hopefully a good person finds them and can be like, oh, is this your mommy and daddy? And have your contact info on it. And, or maybe even a place that if you do get separated from them, you're like, hey, if you find this, we got separated from our kid, please bring them to this location. And, if there isn't, like if cell phones are down or something like that. So you have a way to get reconnected with your kids, if you get separated. Just, a lot of that kind of stuff people don't think about. So we're going to share all that kind of stuff. Tomorrow night, Jeff is going to be doing some more DJ wicka, 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 whack. Yeah. And Jay and Ellie on Sunday is going to be doing their gaming stream. So if any of that interests you, feel free to join us. We'd love to have you. Amen. And you got any closing thoughts, brother?
No, we appreciate you all. Make sure you save the website too, because the morning shows, whenever Mike and David go over the news articles, they'll post them on the website. So you don't have to go searching for any news links or articles that are shared in the show, which is super valuable. Because if there's something you want to research more and they don't have time to go over it that in depth on the show, it's right there. And yeah, a great resource, because then you're searching Twitter all day and, it's highly valuable. So, yeah, they're on the left.
Right here, research links. This is where I drop all the articles that we talk about. So, yeah, no, it's, again, just a ton of value here. Feel free to use it. It doesn't cost you anything. Please. So
we'd love to have you in the Discord. All the links are down below.
Freaking Jay-Z. Freaking, you always show up at the end, man. Oh. All right.
Oh.
That's what you get. Tap a sock to stop the noise. Don't want them zombies hearing that. Absolutely. Ellie, absolutely. Like, follow, and share. That's all we ask. We're going to keep bringing you high quality information and education, and no cost. I mean, a lot of this stuff, tools and newsletters, all that kind of stuff. We're going to bring you all kinds of stuff. So just all you got to do is please like, follow, and share. That's all we ask. It helps the channel grow. It helps us get the information out there. And yes, it helps us earn a little bit of extra money to help pay for the overhead. We're still paying out of pocket for, the streaming software and, all the different things that we're doing, the cloud services, for the website, and, a lot of the back end, the APIs and things like that. All that costs us money. And we're paying for all that out of pocket, because we don't have, any of our, products up yet. But, all we ask is just like, follow, and share, help spread the word, help us grow this channel, and give people a place with integrity that is going to set them up for success and give them the real scoop on these projects and, DeFi protocols, give the good and the bad, no hype. We're not paid. We're not incentivized. Just like, follow, and share. Till next time, Veteran Crypto out.
Peace.